Today we're joined by Jessica Malone, COO of the Jimmy Simpson Foundation.
She needed to do some research, or some research needed to be done. She just kind of was able to hand that to Kaylin, and I think Kaylin got her the laws for all 50 states. Nicole said that would have taken me, 3 months to get done with everything else that she has to do, and Kaylin got it done pretty quickly.
Where she oversees operations, fundraising, and program strategy for Safe Haven's brain injury care work. Like a lot of operators, Jessie reached out a point where follow-ups and scheduling and documentation and email inbox were just eating through hours for her and her team. And in this conversation, she's going to walk through what she stopped doing, what her team stopped doing, and what their ultimate executive assistant took over and now owns. It's going to be a really exciting episode. It's great talking to Workergenix clients and hearing their testimony and learning more about their businesses and the important missions they're doing. Jessie, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Jessie, walk us through, how you came into this role. What journey led you to what you're doing today?
Well, Jimmy Simpson, I was kind of there from day one. He was my grandfather, the firstborn grandchild. I tell everyone I'm the favorite. When we first opened in 98, I was there sort of helping do some really light clerical work. And then I left for a little while because this was in 1998. I was 18. And then I came back in 2011. And I came back to work part-time and just doing inventory and helping them keep up with supplies and things like that. And it kind of snowballed because I was finding that once I was done with that, I didn't have anything to do. So I started asking for more things to do. So after a while, Vicky Hodge, our CEO, we start talking, and she said that the board had asked her to come up with a succession plan, and that she thought that I would be a good fit for that. And I was a little hesitant at first because I didn't know my children were still pretty young at the time. I didn't know how much time I could invest, but I talked to my husband and we talked about this for about a year off and on. And then I finally just decided to take the plan. I went back to school and for 2 years, and then went from working part-time to full-time and was sort of pulled under her to learn how to do what she does. So and eventually that led to her saying, I can't do all of the day-to-day operations and work on expanding. And so she split it. And that's how I came into the role of COO.
Awesome. I love that story. For those in our audience that maybe aren't familiar with the foundation and the work you guys do, could you let us know more about the specific mission and ways you help the community?
Yes. The Jimmy Simpson Foundation, we're a nonprofit organization. We oversee the funding and day-to-day operations of a lifelong care traumatic brain injury facility called Safe Haven. We also oversee the functions and operations of a local traumatic brain injury support group called Carol's Light. The Carol's Light is based on a social model. We focus on getting people out in the community, doing activities. We'll go to a ball game, go to a movie. We have a lot of fun with that.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. You guys have been working with a virtual executive assistant with Workergenix for some time now. Maybe you can tell us kind of what were some of the factors that initially had you guys start thinking that maybe getting some virtual executive support for your team might be the way to go?
Well, we're a really small organization. There are maybe 13 of us in administration altogether. The bulk of the staff here are clinicals. As we were growing, we were figuring out we have these tasks that I didn't have time to do, and I was delegating some of my stuff already. Everybody's plate was just kind of overfilling. It was about that time that we were introduced through Wade Rowan with Sandler, and you had come to speak to us about the virtual assistant, and we decided to we'll give it, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And so we really haven't looked back. Kaylin is our virtual assistant, and she's fantastic.
Awesome. And how did you guys think about the structure? Because I know there were a lot of different ways you could have structured it, whether it was a direct reporting to just you or supporting your team or direct reporting to another one of your team members. What was some of the factors or decision process that you guys considered to come up with what you ultimately decided for her role?
Essentially, with what we were going to have her focusing on, the tasks that we were having her working on, it was going to be a better fit for her to report to financial administrators, or our systems financial administrator, because she's kind of got her hands in IT stuff and in financial stuff. And we knew with the qualifications that Kaylin had, we would probably be pulling her into several of those things. that's how we decided to kind of structure that. And so that's who she answers to.
Were there any challenges getting started with having a virtual team member? Because, before that, most of everyone was working in office in person there.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it took a little bit of getting used to because and it was I think it's probably more on our end because, this is someone that we don't see and you don't talk to every day other than, the check-ins, which can be really brief so that we know that she's clocking in and she's working on something. Unless she has a question. And to be honest, I would be like, hey, who's working on this? And Nicole, who she answers to, would be like, that would be Kaylin. And I was like, yeah. So that did take a little bit of getting used to, or, we would come across something and we're like, well, who's got time to do this? And so, and Nicole would go, Kaylin, it's been great.
So it took a little bit of a mindset shift of like thinking that, hey, you do have this other resource. You've got this other team member that's not in the office, but they can handle certain
It
tasks.
really did. It did. And I think when we had other people go kind of remotely because to work remote, even, I think it's just changing your mindset for that sort of thing because you will forget about someone you don't see every day. You're just like, oh, okay, I was supposed to send them that email or, I forgot to send them this announcement on what's going on within our administration. Yeah, the mindset is definitely it, but but it didn't take too long.
Now, did you guys end up using any different tools, or did you have tools already in place for helping with the delegation and assigning of the tasks to Kaylin or other team members in your
A
organization?
great example is that we have a system, which is our filing system, our electronic filing system. And that is where obviously it's where our charting is going to go for our patients, which, there are state regulations with that. And we switched over and updated our system because we had one that was pretty outdated. And the problem was when the migration came along to get all the files from there to the new system, nothing went where it was supposed to. And it was like, it's going to take us years to get this because, I would have maybe 10 minutes a day to work on it. And, and the others that knew the system weren't in any better of a position. They had a little bit more time, but not a lot. So that was a big thing that Kayla was actually very vital in getting like all of our medical records straightened out and everything filed away properly so that it's easily accessible. Because the state here could come in at any moment and go, I want to see, I want to see your patient files, and we have to be able to just go, here you are. Yeah, she was key in that, and we actually have her working on some of our HR stuff now.
Nice. If you're running a growing company and still handling too many operational details yourself, there's a better way forward. The Delegate or Die checklist shows you the exact tasks that drain leadership bandwidth and the simple changes that recover 15 to 30 plus hours a week. Download it free at workergenix.com/scale-smart. Now let's get back to the episode. Were there any challenges with having the remote access to the files and your internal systems for enabling her to do the work that she needed to do?
No, the system is cloud-based, so she had no problems accessing it. We just needed to give her the permissions for it. So, and to my knowledge anyway, there weren't any issues in accessing that system. So, and I think we've got her working on some other things. We just kind of keep adding some things because, straightening out files is a tedious, thing to do. And we're like, she's qualified for more than this. What else can we have her doing? And, that's why we put her under Nicole to begin with, is because, she had knowledge of the financial systems and the background in and that sort of things. And it was like, okay, well, let's have her help Nicole with some of the stuff on that end too.
Yeah. What would you say, or maybe speaking for Nicole, have you noticed any difference in her work schedule or the areas that she's able to focus on since bringing in the executive support for her and kind of bringing her out of some of those really tedious tasks that you've been describing?
Oh, absolutely. Because maybe a year and a half after Kaylin came on board, our CFO announced she was retiring. And Nicole is also part of the succession plan to step up and take over as CFO. So her responsibilities kind of jumped. So yeah, yeah, Kaylin was able to take on a lot that freed Nicole up to be able to step into that role pretty seamlessly. So I think the timing with that was pretty lucky because she had been with us long enough that her and Nicole were familiar with each other. So it worked out really well when that happened.
Yeah, so that's the one thing too. I guess it's been almost 2 years that Kaylin's been supporting you guys, and
Oh, I think she's been with us for 3, maybe?
wow,
Yeah.
yeah. So having that kind of long-term relationship where she's understanding Nicole's workflow and Nicole understands her workflow, and that communication, I'm sure that's really helped with being able to kind of smooth handing off new responsibilities as they come along. Do you, maybe has Nicole shared examples of situations where like a new challenge has come up and she's been able to just kind of trust Kaylin to take care of it?
Yeah, not long ago. She needed to do like some research, or some research needed to be done with work comp insurance and some of their laws. And so she just kind of was able to hand that to Kaylin and say, hey, and I think Kaylin got her the laws for all 50 states. And Nicole said, that would have taken me, 3 months to get done with everything else that she has to do. And Kaylin got it done pretty quickly.
Awesome. You kind of mentioned earlier that you have a small team in the office and now some are working remotely. And, being a nonprofit, I'm sure that there's budget constraints. What was the budget considerations or maybe some of the benefits of bringing on the virtual executive support to help with the budgetary constraints and maintaining your local staff when time, maybe when there's like some tough financial times or you have to plan out in the future and make budgets for your fundraising? Talk through some of that.
Something that really we took into consideration as far as the budget goes, because, yeah, with being a small nonprofit, then, if you have any sort of loss in revenue, then you're looking at revising your entire budget for the year. You're just kind of almost starting over. But something that we definitely took into account, because obviously payroll is going to be the biggest chunk of your budget. In that payroll, it goes, all of your benefits and any overtime. And so when we were looking at bringing on someone to help us in the capacity that Kaylin does, that's a big thing that we looked at. And it was like, okay, well, let's look at what it would cost to hire somebody part time and them actually be here, or to hire a virtual assistant. And honestly, the virtual assistant it came out that it was going to work better for us budget wise, because you do have all of your, you've got all of the things to consider: PTO, depending on what the hours they work. And like I said, there's insurances and there's other benefits, and that all goes into that payroll. Is more than just the salary. And so that's something that helps us a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it gives more room to make sure you've got the budget for the critical people you've got in the office already.
Exactly. It leaves that open for us to have more clinical people who they do the direct care. And, our mission is to improve quality of life. That's our mission statement. So it definitely frees us up so that we can focus on that.
Well, I'd love to kind of talk about some of the next stages and looking forward for Safe Haven. What are some of the big projects and initiatives that you guys are working on today?
Right now, the two major fundraisers that we do every year, but we have also started adding smaller fundraisers, which are they have helped out quite a bit. Or rather, it'll be a virtual fundraiser, like, selling donuts, or it'll be a spirit night or a give back night at a restaurant, where that restaurant will donate a percentage, and that helps us out with a lot. The give back nights, especially, what they do, any money that's raised for that goes straight to Carol's Light, our support group. So, and I think last year we were able to do three, and it covered almost the entire budget for 2025 for our support group activities. So we were like, this works. This is great. People respond to it. So we've been focused on that. And then, of course, we're working on expanding our admin team somewhat, because I tell people all the time, you're not going to get less busy ever. This is not going to happen. So, if you're a company that's growing, or you're trying to grow, I think something that's said for all of us. So you don't get less busy.
For sure.
So that's a focus, is to sort of expand that a little bit. So, and we have, and by way of, we had a lateral movement with one of my RNs. She was particularly good at doing the activities and going on outings. And then we found out she was also very good at just talking to people and telling them all about Safe Haven and Carol's Life. So we actually created a position for her, and that is her job is, she kind of oversees our volunteers, because we noticed we're getting more and more of those. And a lot of that is because she's going out there and talking to them. So those are some changes that have happened over the last year, and they've been all great changes, and we're really excited to see it grow.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting to hear about all those developments that are going on. And as we wrap up here, if you were talking to another director of a nonprofit or a small business operator and they're considering, feeling that stress that you guys had originally and bringing on a virtual executive assistant, what advice would you have for them for getting started in that critical first like 30, 60, 90-day period?
Communication. Make sure that you're communicating with your virtual assistant. It's going to make that transition and adapting to having someone who isn't there easier on both ends. And it's going to make sure that they feel okay if they have questions because they're not here to see exactly what it is that you're doing. So just keep that in mind and you'll be okay.
Well, Jesse, I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story, sharing about the important mission that you're doing with Safe Haven, the Jimmy Simpson Foundation. If people would like to learn more about the important work you're doing and connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and follow up?
I would definitely visit our website. It's safehavenjsf.org and to check out our social media. We have Facebook and Instagram pages, the Jimmy Simpson Foundation, and that kind of highlights a lot of what we're doing with our residents, with our support group members and the staff and what's going on just a day-to-day basis and it's fun to watch and keep up with but there's also some educational material that we try to put out there, so definitely check those out.
Well, thank you. This has been a great episode. Appreciate you taking the time to share with our audience. I'm sure people are going to be very interested in following up with you after the show.
Thank you.